So we get down to the last part, Vince. It's really sort of big picture scoring. This is, all those things tie into this.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, right? No question. Because Notre Dame, obviously you and I talked about this a lot. We need to see Notre Dame's scoring average go up, right? They were 33.4. That was ranked 30th, which not terrible, but it's not good enough. It's not good enough for Notre Dame. They need to take that next step. And that next step is scoring more points. And let's be honest, Florida State gave up a lot of points last year. They ranked 105th in the nation, gave up 36 points a game. That's not good. I don't know any other way to say it. And I don't necessarily see this matchup going a whole lot differently. I still think everything you said when we were breaking down the Notre Dame pass offense versus the Florida State pass defense about Notre Dame being faster and Florida State chasing and all of that, I think is going to play perfectly into the hands of scoring for this Notre Dame offense. I think they're going to put points on the board, and I'm not sure Florida State has the dudes just yet or the experience. I'll even say that because it's still going to be some.
They're going to be it's going to be a young football team,
right? I don't know that they have the dudes and or the experience to keep up with Notre Dame.
This is the big number here. This right here. That's going to be where we're going to determine how much better this Notre Dame offense is going to be. As you mentioned, that's not a terrible number.
Right.
That's not a terrible number. That's actually a decent number. That's not a terrible number. Notre Dame wasn't bad on offense last year. And as we've talked about, this right here, if this changes and looks more like what it did in 2019 and 2017, they're scoring 38 points a game.
Easily. Yeah.
Against a team that gave up 36. I mean, and remember, when Notre Dame played Florida State last year, that was coming after their 2-week pause.
Oh, that's right.
So they had that that break, that COVID outbreak. So Notre Dame lost a bunch of practice time, and because they had a bye and they had Wake Forest and they had to cancel the Wake Forest game. So they had guys out because of COVID. I mean, it was a bit of a you know what, Vince.
Yes, I do.
And they still came out and they struggled a little bit early. They kind of relied on the couple big runs early. Remember Kyron Williams fumbled the ball early and set up a score. Then Lawrence Keys fumbled a punt and set up another Florida State score. I think those are the things that Notre Dame has to avoid in this game.
Sure.
And they have to avoid the turnovers. I mean, if you think about it, Notre Dame played 12 games last year, had 11 turnovers. 2 of them, I believe, came in this game. That's something that they have to avoid. And if they can do that, then I think those other things are going to be better. I think Notre Dame is going to be able to be balanced. I think Notre Dame is going to have some big plays against Florida State. I think Notre Dame is going to they're the more talented team. They're to me the better coach team, and they're going to be the more experienced team. Because if you think Notre Dame is inexperienced on offense, go look at what Florida State is coming back on defense.
Yeah.
Not a lot of experience coming back. Right. And some of the experience they have is a lot like Notre Dame's. It's guys that played at other places, right? Kyra Wilson played at South Carolina. Jamie Robinson played at South Carolina. Jermaine Johnson was at Georgia last year. It's good football players. Well, Notre Dame has that with Jack Cohn and Kane Madden, right? So that's kind of a wash. But none of those guys played like Jack Cohn played at Wisconsin, right? I mean, the front guys. They were rotational guys, right?
Exactly.
So I just look at it and I say, as long as Notre Dame comes in with an aggressive game plan and they execute at a relatively good first game level, to me, this is a big Notre Dame advantage. And again, Vince, those numbers are just bad. I mean, those are really bad numbers. And I expect them to get better, but better meaning, are they going to be top 50 or top 20? Top 50 gets you beat by Notre Dame. Top 20, okay, it's a ball game. I just have a hard time seeing, and this is the thing where you say, everybody's worried about Florida State. This is who Florida State was last year, though. Right? Now, are they going to be better? Yes, they're going to be better. I love Mike Norvell as a coach. You know that. I think that they got rid of some cancerous players from that football team, more so on the offense than the defense, but there were some guys that needed to go on defense. They lost a lot of those guys, but you don't just go from this bad to great. And I had somebody say, well, what about the jump Notre Dame made in 2015 or 2011 compared to 2012? I said, Notre Dame had a top 25 defense in 2011. People forget that. Notre Dame was a top 25 defense in 2011. Then they went from top 25 to number 1, right? That's not the same thing.
And there's no top 25 anything here, for Florida State. There's not. And you can't expect This isn't the NFL where you go worst to first. Like that. That's not really how college works. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's a process. It is a building process. And look, again, I like Mike Norvell as well. And miracles don't happen overnight in college. Right. And so you can't expect
especially when you inherit what he inherited.
Right.
I mean, he didn't. And here's the thing about Notre Dame. It took Notre Dame 3 years to get going. And and Brian Kelly inherited Michael Floyd, Kyle Rudolph, Tyler Eifert, Zach Martin, Manti Te'o, Capron Lewis Moore, Lewis Nix. I mean, think about all the NFL players. And I'm talking first, second, and third round draft picks that Brian Kelly inherited.
Right.
Mike Norvell didn't inherit that. He inherited a
mess. He inherited a mess.
Because the one thing Charlie could do is recruit.
Right.
I mean, and I didn't even mention Chris Swatt. I didn't mention Bennett Jackson. I didn't mention Zeke Mata. I mean, there was a lot of guys that were great, really key. Theo Riddick, Sierra Wood, Jonas. I mean, there was a lot of guys, or not. Jonas Gray was gone, but there was a lot of guys in that 2012 team that were keys to that 2012 team that were Charlie Weiss recruits.
Sure.
I mean, Reese was a Charlie Weiss recruit. Now he signed with Brian Kelly, but he committed to play for Charlie Weiss. Lewis Nix committed to play for Charlie Weiss. Or actually, Lewis Nix committed to play for Notre Dame. He didn't have a coach when he committed, right? That's the point. Is Brian Kelly got hired with those guys either on the staff or in the recruiting class. Prince Shumbo was already committed to Notre Dame when Brian Kelly was hired. He was a key part of that. Mike Norvell didn't have that advantage.
Right.
He inherited a mess of a roster.
Oh my gosh.
And this is also why I've said why I would rather play them in the opener than in week 10. It's this right here.
Yep.
Because I think it will get a lot better by the end of the year. Now, again, top 20 better? No. Top 50 better to where you're looking at Florida State 22 saying, they're going to have a top 10 recruiting class coming in next year, right? It's already top 5. I think it'll probably fall out a little bit, but it'll be top 5 to 10. And it's a legitimate top 5 to 10, not like the BS that they've had in the past. They're bringing in some good players. You look at what many young players are going to have, plus that, Vince. This is why I say Florida State's ascending. But for this matchup, and this is the matchup that matters, this isn't a Florida State 2021 discussion. This is a September 5th discussion.
Exactly.
And on September 5th, this is a mismatch. Now, the question is, can Notre Dame execute the game plan?
Sure.
That's going to be the question. Can they go on the road, game one, and execute? If they execute it in a good fashion, they'll win by 2 touchdowns.
A game one fashion. I'm not expecting a miracle. I'm not expecting perfection from Notre Dame.
Right.
At all.
Right.
But
they'll move the ball, they'll score, and they'll beat Florida State by at least 2 touchdowns.
I agree.
If they play better than we see in game one, which can happen, then we could see them come out and really put it to Florida State. But I'm not predicting that necessarily in the opener because it is an opener.
But it wouldn't surprise me. It honestly would not surprise me. But I'm not going there yet either. So officially, Brian, advantage Notre Dame offense for Florida State defense. You are going with
Notre Dame scoring offense, rush defense, pass defense, or Notre Dame's scoring offense, pass offense, rush offense. Notre Dame has the advantage in all of them. The advantage is not as great as it was last year, but it's still a significant advantage.
Yes, I concur as well. So that is going to do it for this edition of the Stacking Up off Notre Dame offense versus the opponent defense tomorrow.